Sir, several questions raised regarding the Defense Ministry and the External Affairs and Irrigation Ministries have been clarified by my colleagues from those ministries. My task therefore has been simplified to that extent. Before I go to the questions, financial and economic, raised by several honorable members, I should like to clarify one or two points which are more administrative than economic or financial. One of them was raised by my honorable friend. He raised the question about the recruitment by the Assistant Superintendent's Departmental Competitive Examination and particularly about the examination held in 1960. He said that about rupees 6 lakhs were spent for the 1960 examination and later it was declared that no vacancies were available. He therefore suggested that a definite procedure should be there and the examination should be held according to the vacancies declared in advance and all persons who have qualified in that examination should be eligible for promotion or for appointment. Sir, I do not know whether the honorable member knows how these vacancies are filled. He probably refers to the section officer's grade in the Central Secretariat Service. This is filled 50% by direct recruitment and 25% by departmental competitive examination open to the assistants, that is the next lower grade, and the rest 25% by promotion of the assistants on the basis of seniority subject to fitness. The examination therefore that he was referring to was a departmental competitive examination for filling 25% of the vacancies. It takes about 1 year for the Union Public Service Commission to declare the results of the examination from the time they take up the question of the examination. It is not therefore possible to declare the number of vacancies to be filled in from the very beginning. To declare them just when the results are out is more realistic, and that is what is done. Sir, if the examination is treated as qualifying examination, the number of persons who will thus become eligible for appointment will be quite unrelated to the number of vacancies to be filled, and in then the very situation which the honorable member wishes to avoid would arise. It would not then be possible to hold any of the examinations at regular intervals, and promotions against this quota would become very fitful. The honorable member also suggested that the rules for recruitment and promotion etc. should be uniform for all ministries, whether participating in the Central Secretariat Service scheme or not. It must be, and this is so except for the Ministry of External Affairs and Railways. These have different rules, but these rules are very much similar and there is not much difference. But because these persons are recruited for different purposes and by different agencies, they are separate. Therefore, his purpose in saying that there should be uniformity is almost carried out. The only difference is that the Ministry of Home Affairs does not control the services in these two ministries. Then, sir, questions were raised about backward areas and the backward states and also about the city of Calcutta. If the budget is properly scrutinized, it would be found that assistance is provided for the states, particularly the backward states, and the Finance Commission, which assesses and the overall requirements of the states, takes this into consideration and makes its recommendations, which are carried out every time the Finance Commission's recommendations are received, and they are received periodically according to the Constitution. Sir, I would like to give the total amount paid to the states on this account. The main objective of planning is to create conditions in which living standards are raised in a sufficiently reasonable level and all citizens are given full and equal opportunity for growth and service. The plans seeks to provide a balanced emphasis on increase in production and employment. The development plans are thus accepted as the means for ensuring equitable development in the field of social services. There is no reason to suppose that the needs of the less fortunate or prosperous states are being neglected, but it would not be proper to accept that all these differences could be wiped out now immediately. But it must be seen whether we are going towards that very end or not. We are deliberately going towards that end, and we hope and trust that in course of time these inequalities would be wiped out. If not completely wiped out, at any rate they would be lessened. My honorable friend complained about inadequate provision included in the plan for meeting the growing requirements of the city of Calcutta, where even the basic services like water supply, sewage disposal and drainage were not being augmented, and that the central government was not enthusiastic about solving these difficulties. I have no intention of giving a certificate about which my honorable friend Dr. Krishnaswamy was talking some time ago, since anything like certificate being given by any member of the business community is likely to be misunderstood. But the fact remains that impartial observers both here and abroad have testified to the soundness and stability of our finances, which have successfully withstood severe stresses and strains of the changing economic factors, both national and international, and for this is the fullest possible credit is due to the wise handling of the situation by our present finance minister. There have been criticisms on both sides. Some have described the budget as pro-big business, as something which has brought about a boom in the stock exchange, and as something which has brought about satisfaction in the business circles. The fact is that if there has been any satisfaction, it has been due purely to negative features of the budget, and not because any positive relief in any direction has been given to business or industry. It is true that there were certain fears in the minds of the business community that in view of the expanding and growing needs of the center, and the finance minister might resort to certain further additional taxation, and since those fears were not realized, there has been some slight recovery in certain stock exchanges, but that does not in the least mean that whatever relief and legitimate relief was due to the business and industrial community has received any adequate response from the finance minister. We have got to face the fact that we are at present engaged in the process of development. People who talk about UK and USA conveniently forget that these are most highly industrialized countries in the world, and our taxation system, so long as we are engaged in expanding and building our economy, must be adjusted and linked with the requirements of the expanding economy, and should not be compared with the high taxation levels that may be prevalent in UK and USA. Friends have talked about unemployment, but whether the raising of the direct taxation levels will in any way mitigate unemployment is a question that should be considered. If the finance minister gives substantial relief in direct taxation, I think that might lead to an acceleration in the pace of development. So it has to be considered whether it is relief in taxation which will lead to a reduction of unemployment, or whether it is raising of taxation of the utmost levels which will dry up the resources and channels of capital formation, and thereby not only retard all further development but might also throw the functioning of present industries out of gear. So my submission is that when the taxation inquiry committee has been appointed, it is only logical to accept that no substantial changes in the taxation structure will be made until the findings of that expert committee are known, until we know the incidence of taxation in the various sectors of our economy. Now, coming to the question of deficit financing, I am afraid that my esteemed friend's attitude was somewhat different from the line of opinion in the business and industrial community. Not that we advocate deficit financing for bringing any artificial rise in prices, but the fact is that those who have criticized deficit financing have not suggested any other alternative or made any other constructive suggestion which will bring about necessary for development plans. Whatever program we have set out in the national plan should go on unimpeded by any financial considerations. An assurance has been given by the finance minister that so far as financial resources are concerned, he will ensure that the 5-year plan will not in any way be retarded. In this connection, I can only say that deficit financing is one thing so far as the revenue budget is concerned, so far as normal expenses and expenditure are concerned. Certainly nobody would advocate deficit financing, which might be very undesirable, but when it is a question of doing something abnormal, of investing something in productive channels, then certainly some risk has got to be taken, and I think the finance minister has been fully cautious in taking whatever measures he has so far. We know the measures that the government took for contracting money supply about the end of 1950.